You have to have three things for the saddle to properly fit, from my experience. One, good tree, all right. Two, a decent pair of panels. And three, you need lines on that horse's back. And if you don't have an established lines on a horse's back where, you know, there's something for that saddle to actually come to, if one of those three things are off or missing, you're not going to have a well-fitted saddle until those three things, you know, come together. And most of the times they do. You'll find that your saddles will fit a little differently at the beginning, you know, before the season, because you've let the horses out and they've sort of lost their lines a bit. But once they reestablish their backs, and the horse is also, you know, has the proper weight to sustain his fitness, then those are the three major things. You were asking about the fit across the front. Okay, you need space. If you don't see any sunlight, or you cannot fit your hand between that saddle and the horse's back, then there's an issue. Okay, and we've gone over the spread tree. A lot of saddles are made with foam panels, and they look like there's a substantial amount of panel in or underneath the saddle. Well, foam will condense, and when you go to cinch up that girth, that foam gets a little thinner. You get on top of it, and you could be 95 pounds or 295 pounds. There's still weight on top of there, and it presses down even more. And as time goes on with the saddle, heat, sweat, this, that, and the other, that actually, the pressure of that saddle being on the horse's back for a long period of time, that foam will not spring back anymore and actually stay compressed. So this is when you start getting into putting pads and this and that underneath the horse. Well, the idea of a blanket or a pad is to protect the saddle from the horse's sweat. When you start putting things on to protect the horse from the saddle, you've got a fitting problem. So you can address it in a number of different ways. You can add to the panel, or some saddles actually, for example, this saddle here has a parallel gullet. So there's an equal amount of space for the spine to move. Older saddles had what they call a pie-shaped gullet, which means the back of the gullet was narrow and the front of the gullet was wider. Well, just look at my hands. If you're doing that, you're naturally going to allow that saddle to drop. But once you create a parallel pair of panels or gullet's the middle, then that naturally brings the saddle up and the back of that saddle to come down on the horse's back. But again, if you start shoving the saddle up on the horse's shoulders, or you're too far back and things like that, that will also affect the sizing or the fit of the saddle.
You started to say if you're having to protect the horse from the saddle, you had a couple options.
Well, yeah, you can. A lot of times you can actually add material, rubber, or a thin felt form. You literally take the panel off the saddle, and you can add to it like this. This is a panel off of a saddle, and it's essentially like a big leather envelope, right? And we just open up the top, and inside is our forms, and in this case the form for a polo panel. Now there's rubber in here, and it's a firm rubber. Also with rubber, over the course of time, will break down. Heat, age, fatigue, again, starts to break down and actually crystallizes. And you can open up a panel and it's snowing. I mean, there's really nothing much left inside because it just wore out. And I go with a felt panel. I prefer felt over foam. Felt is a little denser, but it also is more consistent over the course of time. And felt will not compress as much, and it actually will take, if there is a pressure point, foam intensifies the pressure point by 10 times as much. Felt will actually help distribute that over 3 times the area that that pressure point is, or where that pressure point is. And once you take the saddle off the horse, don't take everything and throw it over the seat, or take your sweat-drenched blankets and throw them over the seat. What you're doing is you're basically giving your seat a nice acid bath from all the sweat and everything, and that will actually make it a quicker time to replace and repair your seat. But also for the panel with the felt, as the felt dries, it actually, whatever constriction or contraction there was, will actually expand again, keeping the panels consistent over the lifetime of the saddle. I feel I'm an advocate for the animal more than I am for anything else, because that poor bastard has no say, and all this stuff is being strapped to it and knocked around it and stuff. And if you can prevent any harm to the horse, which is your investment, and in many cases an extension of the family, you don't want to hurt that horse. No one's going out to purposely hurt the horse, but some people don't know, and they want to know. They didn't know. They didn't know that you could do this. They didn't know you could do that. They didn't know, someone's around to even know how to do this stuff,
Yep.
And I'm glad you're doing something like this, because, like my wife says, you should have people sit there and watch you do this. They'd have a greater appreciation for what you do, Mm-hmm. Just like making the horses, just like doing a lot of this stuff. It's all behind the scenes. Very few people get to know or see what's going on. And you sort of take it for granted. It's just like me. I had all this stuff. I just take it for granted. I do this all the time. Don't you? No. That's what this is for. And I appreciate that.